Welcome to Authentic Living with Roxanne, a place where we have conscious conversations about things that really matter in our lives. And now, here's your host, Roxanne Derhaj.
Hi, everyone. It's Roxanne Derhaj of Authentic Living with Roxanne. Thanks for tuning in again this week. This week, I have a special guest, Julie Leonard, visiting with us. Hi, Julie. How are you?
Hello there. I'm really well. How are you?
Good, good. So Julie is she's actually my first guest from Germany, Munich, Germany. And she brings quite an interesting background with her as a certified coach. She calls herself the happiness evangelist, which I love that term. And she works with a lot of people around the issue. She's a founder of something called Sundag. Is that how I pronounce it, Julie?
Sundag, yeah, that's right. Yes, a Scottish word, Sundag.
Yes.
It means joy and health and happiness.
Okay, because I wasn't sure what that meant. And she works with things like intentional happiness circles, and she has a daily happiness journal. And so her whole expertise is around the arena of intentional happiness. So Julie, let's talk a little bit and jump right into kind of, you started, working in this field about 30 years ago. So what kind of, 30 years ago, I'm going to think that, that wasn't the kind of a topic that was being spoken about around the dinner room table on a Sunday night. What got you into kind of this type of work?
Yeah, hi. So I guess it really started from my upbringing, and I grew up in Scotland, and I grew up with a father who was and still is quite depressed, and just through how he was with me, it really had an effect on me and how I grew up and what I thought and what I believed, very indirectly. He was often alone in his own head, so I really struggled with like limiting beliefs and thoughts, like I'm not good enough, I don't have something worth talking about, no one wants to listen to my opinion, those kind of things. And I really struggled. I was very, very shy, very anxious growing up. And so it's no surprise that I actually went to study psychology. I had to go and work out what was going on somewhere. So I found my way into psychology, and that's what I studied at university. And even there, I really struggled with my anxiety and my self-esteem. And I found it really hard to be around other people and go and meet my friends in the canteen and things like this. But through that, I really realized that I wanted to support other people in their own emotional health, and I was really drawn to that work. I went out to start working in in community mental health, as it was then, and I had the great fortune to be able to go out into people's homes and to talk to them. And the mental health teams that I was working with, it was local charity work I was doing. The wonderful thing was that we weren't just about trying to help people be less anxious, less depressed, etc., but it was much more about recovery, about that different level, a different stage, like how to be truly happy, I guess, was what now I would say. And when I said to people, what does recovery mean to you? Most of the time they said, I want to be happy. And so what I would look at is like, well, how do we get that? What does happiness mean to you? And I mean, it varied from person to person, but we would work on different aspects, break them down into smaller steps and work on them. And of course, I didn't really know it at the time, but I was coaching people. And so that's what I was doing for so long. And so that really drove me into this passion for happiness, and using those tools to work on myself as well, and to transform myself. And that's what I did over the years, was really transform myself into the much more confident life coach and woman that's here today talking to you, and using those skills with all the other women that I was working with, probably about 1,000 to date now. And now that I take into my coaching practice. And I think it's just really evolved into this pursuit of happiness. And meaning so many people who are caught up in their limiting beliefs, negative thinking, who don't really feel happy, aren't enjoying life, aren't living to their full potential, and who, I really want to support people to get out of that and to really feel happy, whatever happiness means to you. And also that, I guess for me, happiness really is about having that inner resilience to cope with what life throws at you. Not that you live in this little bubble all the time, but that you have this core ability to cope with whatever goes on. And so this has really evolved. And now I call myself a happiness evangelist because I'm very passionate about spreading the message that you can change your life. You're not defined by your past, whatever has happened, that we're not limited by our beliefs or our negative thinking, that there's so much within our control that we can take a hold of, that we can change in ourselves. And I hope that I'm a really good example of that.
So, which, it's so interesting because a lot of times people that end up in psychology, to your point, is that they're trying to figure out their own concerns, and then they learn some really good stuff, and then they go on and they, start to teach other people. So let's talk a little bit about happiness as a concept. And you talk about, especially with us now kind of coming out of the era that we've gone through with the pandemic, where we're now starting to open up. A lot of people have been at home and they've been disconnected. And we know that here in Canada or North America, our mental health claims are on the rise. I'm going to, of course, the same, I would think, in Germany. When we think about intentional happiness, let's talk a little bit about what that is, because I'm going to assume that a lot of people are going to benefit from understanding what that concept is, because we've all been through probably the roughest time, I would say, in centuries. What is intentional happiness?
So this is, as I sort of pursued this approach to happiness, it really evolved into becoming something much more than just getting clarity and just having goals. I'm saying that as a life coach, these are really important. But I experienced it in my own life, and I think we're all like this, and so many of us are like this, where, if you think pre-pandemic and pre-lockdown, life goes really fast, doesn't it? We all have a lot of responsibilities, a lot to do. And I know, I speak for myself, that, I rush through the day, rush through the week, even though I'm quite intentional myself. But, the weeks go by, the months go by, and, there's so many things that you want to do or like to do, and you just don't do them because you're so busy, just caught up in the day to day. And I was really seeing this, and I was seeing it with my clients as well, where they would say things like, oh yeah, I really enjoy reading, but, I don't get time to read a book. Or, like here I live in Munich, so we have these beautiful Christmas markets, and people say, oh, I really love the markets, but I won't get to them this year, this kind of thing. And thinking, well, if these are the things that bring you joy, why are you not prioritizing these things? And so this concept of intentional happiness, and what I teach in my intentional happiness circle, is about really being clear on what makes you happy, what is important in your life, and consciously and deliberately working on those every single day, prioritizing those over other things every single day. So like, if I could illustrate that for you just in a very simple way, like for me, my health is very important. I've always been a healthy eater, but as I went through some stuff where I was having like some stuff with like really bad histamine levels, like quite debilitating levels of histamine and sort of hormones and stuff like that, I had to decide that I wanted to not just say, oh, I'd like to feel a bit healthier, or I'll try and eat a little bit healthier, but to consciously do that. So I engaged with a nutritionist. I went on a detox diet. I now very consciously every single day plan my meals, look at the food that I shouldn't eat because it's not good for me or triggers me off, really consciously working on that. So it's that difference between that kind of good intention or idea, and even a bit stronger than just having a goal, but being that really conscious and with intention every day, working on the things that are important, and really focusing down on a handful of those things that are important. So perhaps during this time where we've had time to really hit pause and think about things, maybe we're realizing like relationships are important, and days go by and you're really busy. Have you made that phone call? Have you reached out to somebody? You know, are you calling your family? That kind of idea. So maybe family is important. You know, for me, being with my son is important. My, you know, with my partner, that's important. You know, there's certain things that, you know, I realize are truly important, and I want to create that space and time for them and not kind of let those things slip because so many other things come in the way. Does that make sense? Is that a good concept?
Absolutely,
Does that make
absolutely.
sense
You
to you,
know,
Roxanne?
oh, for sure. And I think to your point, you know, our lives, you are so right. And, you know, you know, my mom and dad used to say to me, when you're young, time sits still, but when you get older, time whips. It whips and it
Yeah.
gets quicker and
Yes.
quicker. And I
Yes.
think, you know, now being in my 50s, I see exactly what they say, what they
Mm-hmm.
mean, because it's so
Yeah.
true. You're right. It's like month to month, or, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
quarter to quarter, and then we're through another year. So I think that concept of being intentional, as hard as this lockdown has been, it's forced most of us to really slow, which most, I would say most human beings are too busy being busy. And then that's the discomfort that has happened. And but throughout all of this, you know, they're talking a lot about, you know, I know I go for 2-hour walks now, which I never, I mean, I work out or I would get to the gym. Yeah, but I go, you know, last week I went for 3 or 4 2-hour walks, you know, and just getting out. And then when you get out, and yesterday, this is an example, my girlfriend, a friend of mine lives not too far from here, and there was a swan in just a little inlet, something you never see where we are. And then hers, and she goes, and she said to me, oh my goodness, I didn't bring my camera. And I said to her, my words were, we weren't meant to capture it in that way. We were meant to capture it in the moment so that you and I can have this memory together, so that, you know, as we go, we'll be able to remember, say, remember when we went for that park around the Niagara River Parkway and we saw the swan? So I think, is that what you mean? Is like just being more intentional. I know that
Yeah.
I've done it.
I think that's just, oh, it's just lovely the way you described that. It's so nice, isn't it? That, yeah, and I think like within intentional happiness is really that concept of being more mindful as well, more aware of stuff, slowing down and looking around. We're often plugged in and rushing around and not really looking around us. And don't you just notice that now as humans retreat, how nature comes out? And, you know, I know here, even though I live in a city, the birds are quite deafening at the moment, you know, and it's just so beautiful that you can just hear nature, and that, you know, there's more to see. And as things slow down, I guess all that chatter in our head slows down a bit as well, and we can really just appreciate things that are around us, and as you say, just slow down a bit more. So yeah, intentional happiness is about slowing down and hopefully now continuing what nature has forced upon us right now. And yeah, just being more conscious of things, more aware of things, more mindful, and just prioritizing what's important. So yeah, your health is important, clearly there, Roxanne. So like going for your walks every day, hopefully you will continue that, because you see, you know, the benefits, you know, and I'm sure it wasn't just, you know, like, yeah, you're seeing those beautiful parts of nature, but maybe you feel healthier, maybe you feel more positive in your mind, maybe you're more creative, maybe you're just bursting with all these ideas. You know, there's so many things that come of that. And I think a lot of us want to embrace that more and be more in that place where, I guess the outcome of that is that we feel happier, isn't it? We live more to our potential, and we have more focus on what's actually important, and not what we feel I'm doing inverted commas, what we should be doing, what I must do and ought to do or obliged to do, but actually what really is important for us.
So when we look at where we're at in the world, and I know here in North America, I'm sure it's the same in Europe, they found that there's been like almost like a 47% increase in mental health calls, right? So, and I would think that the predominant, I was just reading something just before I got on the line with you from the Harvard Business Review, saying that anxiety is now has gone up even further. So with us talking about this concept of intentional happiness, which is kind of anxiety is normal in this time. And if anybody tells you that they're not anxious through this time, I'm going to say, check your pulse, just to make sure you're alive. But so with the state that we're in, and I know what you're saying, it's a gift, but however, some people may be struggling to get the basics. So tell me some of the things that you teach or that you just, you do in your intentional happiness circles for people that maybe are saying, you know what, I've had some anxiety even before this, and it's just been kind of exacerbated since. What are some simple strategies that people can start to do if they're struggling to kind of slow and really focus on what's important in the present?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I can see it with my clients and the people that are reaching out to me that, of course, and hands up here as well. I'm generally very positive, and I'm very fortunate in the situation that we're in right now. But I know I have my anxiety days and my, kind of riding a wave of emotion. And I've stayed home for over 11 weeks. I went out yesterday for the first time properly, and I was really anxious because I haven't really been out. I haven't really done the things that I used to do. And now I go out, it's all different as well. I've got to remember the mask and the hand gel and everything. And it was very nerve-wracking for me. So it's first and foremost is acknowledge that it's, as you say, it's okay to feel this way. It's okay not to be okay. This is a very unusual situation for most of us. We've never experienced anything like this, and it's something that changes day to day, moment to moment. It's quite a strange way. It's not like there's nothing certain at the moment. So when you're in that situation, it's going to trigger things, and we all have a response to stress, and there's a lot of stress because there's a knock-on effect from this, whether it's affecting your job or your finances, or you're isolated at home, or you're isolated by yourself without that human touch with other people. This has a huge impact on us. So recognizing what's going on and recognizing your stress response is also really helpful. So I think it's really good to know that a lot of the time we talk about how we have flight or fight, but there's actually a third one. There's also freeze, so recognizing how you respond, whether you're like, okay, I'm embracing everything and I'm doing a million courses and I'm feeling really positive and you're this kind of way, or whether you're just like not really doing anything because it's just too much, or whether you're escaping into other things, or whether you feel quite paralyzed. First and foremost, recognize what that is, because once you know, like, oh, this is my body feeling stressed and reacting to it, it helps you understand your behavior, that it's not about you, like, there's an issue with you, that it's actually how your body copes and how your mind copes. So I think that's really important. I've been talking a lot about that with my clients, and that has been really, really useful for people, because a lot of people get quite paralyzed by it as well and think, oh, I'm being lazy, or I'm not doing what I should be doing, and it's not, it's that you're coping with a stressful situation. So that's very, very important. Definitely reach out and get support. There are so many people like you and me, Roxanne, and so many other people out there. Please reach out and talk to somebody and get support, because whether you have anxiety that's now exacerbated, or whether you've been able to keep busy and often avoid some of the issues that you have when you're in lockdown, this is when we're confronted by issues that maybe we didn't think were still an issue, or we've been able to manage for a long time. So maybe a lot of stuff is coming up for you. So please reach out and get help. Some of the tools that I think really help right now is to try and focus on any positives that are in your life. And I know for some people there's a lot going on, but there are some nice things in there as well. So I'm all about gratitude, and we know that gratitude is well researched, well known to have a very, very powerful impact. Even though it's such a small thing and such a simple thing to do, practicing gratitude every day, looking for the things that you're thankful for, really helps you focus your brain on the positive, and it helps really build those neural pathways that really keep focusing on the positive and not just on our negative, because we're really good at looking at negative stuff. We're brilliant at that, but we really want to be able to look at the positives. So I really encourage people to look at gratitude. I really encourage people to learn about the tools for mindfulness, and I teach a lot of courses on that, because that's about trying to stay in the present, particularly now when things are so uncertain. It's very easy to get caught up in that rumination about the future and the what ifs and the worry. And there's only so much that we can be in control of. So really trying to be much more present and focus on the present moments. This is very, very important. And if we can practice that in any way, then that really, really helps us. And focusing on what we can control, not what's out of our control. But there are things that are in our control. Not everything, but there are a lot of things. So I help people focus on what is in your control and what can you focus on. So I think those tools help greatly with people right now.
Really, and I often say when I coach is that it's about when we get harried and busy, we're in sensory overload. And mindfulness is to go into a different modality with our senses, So I back onto the golf course here. I live in Niagara Falls, Ontario, just to give your people in Germany in Munich a sense of where I am. So, and I back onto a golf course, and it's so interesting, because of course you like me, busy lives and practices and stuff like that. But what I found is, so when I sit in my family room, is that I'm shocked at how many, there was always birds, but I'm shocked at how many things like cardinals and blue jays and things like that I see throughout the day now. So whether they were there as much, or I am, because I am slowed and are able to, and I'm seeing them, and these are cardinals, I think, are new. So whether we're just being gentler with the environment, so they're or the creatures are coming out more, those types of things, whether that's, but it's interesting because now I'm recognizing, just by having my tea in the morning and I'm sitting there in my living room, that there's all this beautiful color and, birds. There was always birds, but now there's the diversity of it. So I often coach to people to say, you have the five senses: sight, sound, taste, touch, smell. And my challenge oftentimes is to say to my clients to challenge themselves to practice being mindful of all those senses. So what are some of the other things that people can do to kind of heighten those senses? Because we're always heightened, but we might be in a dysregulated state because we're so busy and things like that. But what are, from a mindfulness perspective, like you're saying, what are some things that people could actually do? We talked a little bit about walking is one thing already, just sitting and enjoying, nature. What other things would you suggest that might be good to heighten your senses?
I think, mindfulness is, again, another simple tool, but it's quite difficult to remember to do it. So it takes a lot of practice. It's simple, but it takes a lot of practice. And so one of the courses I teach is how to make it part of your daily life and to bring it into, rather than trying to make it additional, but try and incorporate it into some of the tasks you do. So some simple ways to really start on that, I would suggest, is something like mindfully brushing your teeth is a great one. It's 2 minutes that we do, but how often are you brushing your teeth and thinking about what you're doing next? You're never really thinking, I'm brushing my teeth. It's like, what I have to do next, what I have to get doing, or you're like, it's just such a habitual thing that you don't even really consciously do it. But when we brush our teeth mindfully, truly mindfully, then it's everything from just watching what you're doing as you put the toothpaste on the toothbrush. It's the sense of, the smell of the mintiness, the taste on your tongue, how it foams up, how it feels, being conscious of brushing every tooth. And if you can challenge yourself to do that for the 2 minutes, it's a great way to really experience true mindfulness and to stop your mind rushing on. So I always start with brushing your teeth or having a shower, because having a shower, most people are not fully present in that. I always have a little slide when I do this. It says that having a shower is 2% washing, 8% singing, and 90% putting the world to rights, because we tend to just kind of get ready, but you're totally like, going through stuff and having arguments and debates and sorting stuff out. And then you go, oh, did I shampoo my hair? Or, what did I do? Did I wash that arm? That kind of thing. So, much more being in tune of like that, the heat, the temperature of the water, the smell of your shampoo, the sensation as you wash your hair, like try and do something that you're already doing in the day, but then try and bring yourself to be more mindful. And as you say, bring in all those senses. It's really wonderful. And now I think there's also a crossover, something that I think is very helpful as well, is I do things like mindful coloring, because that's a really great thing. So if you're finding that just being truly mindful is difficult, picking a task, what psychologists call like flow state tasks, we call it getting in the zone. That's what we would say. So things where you have to like focus on something that's challenging enough, but it's a single activity. What that does is it takes you out of the part of the brain where you're overthinking and you're worrying about stuff into a completely different part of your brain that shuts off from all of that. So if you feel it's hard to kind of break that cycle of rumination, pick something that keeps you busy for a little while. Mindful coloring is a great one. I've got a 5-year-old, so we're sitting coloring for hours and I can do it with him, but things like yoga, Tai Chi, any kind of those kind of sports where you have to focus on what you're doing, or you fall over or something, is challenging enough, but it's focused for you as well. Sometimes like an activity like maybe knitting or sewing, those kind of crafts, something craft that you do with your hands that you're focusing on. To a degree, like, more like playing computer games. You don't want to get caught into doing that for hours, but like sometimes you're on the games and you just zone out completely. So think of those activities where you completely zone out and you forget time for a while. That's a great way to train yourself to be mindful, but it's a double bonus that you're also going into a zone, into a flow state, and that's really great for mental health. And there's lots of research that says even 5 minutes a day of that has a huge impact on how we feel. So that would be my suggestions.
Yeah. And I often say, like with my senior executives and stuff like that, what I'll have them do is put an alert on their phone. So they would do it like kind of mid-morning and mid-afternoon, and maybe on their way from in their commute, which we haven't had lately, is to put those alerts to remind themselves to do something off a list of 10 things that I have them create together with me, to have them stay present. And it could be, one thing that I sometimes will do is I'll have them come up with, well, of course they can't do this with their driving, but they might on the desktop of their phone put 5 of the most relaxing or happiest pictures that they can think of that's on their phone right now, but not to have to go look through them, but to just be able to flip those through, and just really think about what were you feeling, or, who were you with, how were you thinking, those types of things. And then they get kind of accustomed to doing that, right? So it could be in say beautiful lakes, or their pets, or their family, those types of things. And it's just that pause, to your point, that we're talking about, is just being able to pause for a little bit, refocus, remember what's important. Why am I doing what I'm why I'm doing what I'm doing, versus kind of getting caught up in the tumble of that we do day in, day out, quarter to quarter, year to year kind of thing.
Absolutely. Those are great ideas. You're absolutely right. I think we've had the chance now to kind of create that space to process things better and to focus on things that we are enjoying. So many people, I see such a change. I'm sure you see the same, Roxanne, but so many people who are like, gosh, how am I going to cope with lockdown and working from home? I like to change that. I don't think we're working from home. I think we're at home trying to work through a pandemic, and it's very different. And I think that's important to remember. We're not homeschooling, we're at home trying to teach our kids, while we're trying to work from home. So it's important. But I think we've had that space now. So it's like, how can you carry that forwards into life? How does that become your new normal? When we think about what we're rushing back to, what are we really in a rush to take with us? What's actually important to take forwards in our lives?
And, the one thing, and I want you to just speak to this a little bit, is about that being happy is really, it's a habit. It's not something that happens upon us. And, because a lot of people will say, well, how do I manage? Some people say they only have happy thoughts. And I said, well, if you find those people, please send them my way. But it's really about managing your thoughts. Because some days, you get up and you're like full of verve and vigor. And it's like, whoa, how can I channel this? Because I want to feel like this every day. And then some days you get up and you're like, I'd like to hit the replay and try for that day that happened before. And I'm the same person, and nothing substantive has happened. So knowing, I want you to talk a little bit about how you have to intentionally practice or plan, what you're going to do, because it's just not going to haphazardly happen on its own.
No. So first point I would say is that, there's like there is a genetic component to who we are. So some people are a bit more optimistic, some people are more pessimistic, but research shows that is like 50% and 40% of who we are. The rest is all up for grabs. So, because you maybe have a tendency one way or the other, doesn't mean that it's fixed, that there's a huge part of us that we can change. So there's so many tools, like we're already talking about, that you can really train your brain to think more positively. It's called neuroplasticity. So we know from science that you can change your brain to become more positive thinking and more conscious. But the brain is a muscle like any part of your body. So you have to keep working on it. You don't just do, some gratitude for a month and then you're like, well, that's that done. Or, I did a bit of mindfulness and now I'm fine. It's the same as, if you're running a marathon, you wouldn't train for a marathon and then not train for the next year till the next marathon. You have to keep going. And the brain is the same way, and our happiness is the same way. So, once you find the tools that really work for you, because there's a whole plethora of tools that really work, you choose the ones that work for you. But you have to keep doing them. You have to keep working on them. I like to embrace the growth mindset, that we're not fixed and nothing is certain, that you can really grow and expand yourself in your comfort zone, really expand your mind, always learning from stuff. So, if you take that approach, then you're constantly working on yourself. And so find those tools that really work for you. Embrace things that you want to consciously work on. Be very deliberate in your actions. And if you've got clarity on what's important to you, you've got a clear plan, and you're very intentional, you're going to be a lot happier. I'm not saying you're just happy, because it's not the permanent thing, but you have that resilience. So, for me, I have the things that work for me. And a big one that I use a lot just now is about self-compassion. I think that's something that many people are lacking, basically. Like how we talk to ourselves is often very, very critical and very, very harsh. And so right now, particularly now, talk to yourself with more compassion, be kinder to yourself, reward yourself for how well you're doing through such difficult times. But that's a tool that I've used, and that's really evolved with me, and I find it a huge help to me. And I can see that the longer that I've used it, how quickly it kicks in, how the response rate and how I feel regarding that has got quicker and faster, and a bit more spontaneous as well. So this has taken me years of practice, but I really find that practicing like self-compassion meditation and loving kindness meditation has had a huge impact on me. So find the tools that work for you, do them every day, prioritize those things as important as any other thing, as brushing your teeth every morning and every evening. Put them into place, because they're simple, they're fast, yet they're incredibly powerful.
Well, Julie, this has been, an amazing time. And where can people reach you if they're interested and learning more about your circles and intentional happiness? What's your website so that people could check you out and connect if they're wanting some more?
Sure. So you can find me at julieleonardcoaching.com. There you'll see all the stuff that I do. And also I'd love to open up, I also run a Facebook group called the Happiness Club. So we talk about all things to do with happiness. So if you want to come over there, it's all free. We have lots of inspiration, and we actually go online live every month of our Happiness Club. There's lots of information there. We do a daily happiness moment, lots of free resources there too. So you can come on over there as well. And so you'll find out lots about me there and join other people who want to intentionally be happy.
Awesome. So what am I taking away today? And the one thing that I think I really drew from this today, Julie, is you don't have to take extra time So you can start from the simple things with our, as we kind of start to open up our lives again, from brushing your teeth to having your shower, or, having that cup of tea where you're actually taking the taste and, feel the warmth of the cup, or even the texture or of your, whatever that cup is made out of. So these are things, it's not an additional activity, but to recognize that you're doing them, but you can alter the way you interface with those activities to become more intentional in your happiness. So again, Julie, thanks so much for spending the time with us. And for everyone listening, I'm a mental health and wellness specialist. If you're needing any information on coaching or keynote speaking, you can reach me at roxannederhodge.com.
Thanks for tuning in to Authentic Living with Roxanne, creating the space for positive, healthy change. Roxanne is a keynote speaker, psychotherapist, and coach. To work with Roxanne, visit roxannederhodge.com/blueprint. We'll see you next time on Authentic Living with Roxanne.